room for Jesus this holiday season? Welcome back. My name is Ben, and today we're going to be taking a look at Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that the whole empire should be registered. This first registration took place while Quirinius was governing Syria. So everyone went to be registered, each to his own town. And Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and family line of David, to be registered along with Mary, who was engaged to him and was pregnant. While they were there, the time came for her to give birth. Then she gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him snugly in cloth and laid him in a feeding trough, because there was no room for them at the lodging place. As we look at this passage and we talk about have you any room for Jesus, it's really easy to turn our eyes away from ourselves and to the world and to talk about how Christmas has become so commercialized and how the world has no room for Jesus. When in fact we should be looking inward at ourselves and asking the question, do I have any room for Jesus? Because you see, in Romans 9, Paul says that as the church of God, we've been grafted in, if you will, to the nation of Israel, are now part of that nation. So that means that at this point in time, the people of Israel are representative of God's church. That means in this passage, it's God's people who have no room for Jesus. Sadly, as we go on down through the ages, the church grows, and we find that things don't change much, because in Revelation chapter 3, Jesus says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." That's right, it's His church, His people that have locked Him out again. They've relegated Him to the outside of the church. And the reason they've done that is because they're lukewarm. They want just enough of Jesus to look good to others. They want just enough of Jesus so that they don't watch those kind of films. They want just enough of Jesus so that they know all of the Bible verses and have all of the right answers and can impress everybody. But they don't want to let Jesus in because they're afraid. They're afraid that if Jesus comes in, they'll have to sell out. If Jesus comes in, they'll have to be Christian enough to be nice to that person with AIDS. They'll have to be Christian enough to love that person sitting next to them on the pew that they really don't care for. They'll have to be Christian enough to do whatever it is that God calls them to do, to change maybe some of the traditions they've had for years and years. They want just enough of Jesus so that they don't have to do all of that. In the midst of this tragedy, though, there's hope. Because God's rebuke is for the church. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. His invitation is to the individual. You see in the last part of that verse, verse 20 of chapter 3, he says, if any man, any individual, any person will let me in, open that door and let me in, I will have fellowship with him and he with me. You see, even in the midst of a church that is stone cold dead, and I preached in some of them, if you'll open the door and invite Jesus to come in, you can have sweet fellowship. If you'll only have room for Him this Christmas and beyond. So I ask you today, quite simply, do you have any room for Jesus? Again, thank you for joining us today, and Merry Christmas. If you like what you saw here, please hit that like button and subscribe. Also hit that notification bell so that you don't miss an episode. God bless you. Have a great day. And I'll see you next week as we begin to look at the shepherds and the angels and the joy that takes place surrounding the birth of Jesus.